everyone thinks that he has conquered his enemies, not understanding that his enemies are his uncontrolled mind and five senses. Manha shastrani indriyani prakritistani karshati. In this material world, everyone has become a servant of the senses. Originally, everyone is a servant of Krishna, but in ignorance one forgets this, and thus one is engaged in service of Maya through lusty desires, anger, greed, illusion, madness and jealousy. Everyone is actually dependent on the reactions of material laws, but still one thinks himself independent and thinks that he has conquered all directions. In conclusion, one who thinks that he has many enemies is an ignorant man, whereas one who is in Krishna consciousness knows that there are no enemies but those within oneself, the uncontrolled mind and senses. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta Prabhu. So this is the transcendental vision of Prahlad Maharaj, which he is preaching to his father. How one can see everyone on the platform of equality. How is that possible? Without somebody as friends, somebody as enemies. And here this particular verse says that for one who has not conquered the six enemies of the body, all bodily possessions are stolen by these six enemies. And who still thinks that I have conquered enemies in all directions is not really victorious. On the other hand, one who has conquered the six enemies within, he is victorious. Not only is victorious, outside him there are no enemies for him. There is no enemy, there is no friend. So there is a great point being made here by Prahlad Maharaj. Practically compressing the entire Krishna conscious philosophy within this verse. Because we understand from the philosophy of Krishna consciousness that because of misuse of our free will, we are in this particular situation in this material world. And this situation in the material world is considered to be a disadvantageous situation. It is not any great choice that we have made. Our constitutional position is actually to be engaged in loving devotion service to Krishna, the Supreme Lord, being his spiritual part and parcel. Because of our ignorance and because of our decision to try out another kind of enjoyment, which is what is manifest as the six enemies. So what we thought, what the living entity thinks as independent pleasure is actually there are six enemies. We think it is pleasure. Six enemies of who? The enemies of the soul. Because the enemy, what does it say here in the verse? It says, stealing all one's possession. The soul has got senses, soul has got sensibilities, soul has got mind, soul has got the capacity to feel, soul has got the capacity to feel rasa, soul has got the capacity to do all the jnanendriya, karmendriya that does different activities, The soul inherently has a capacity for all these things. That is why a dead body cannot do all those things. So actually all those things are possession of the soul. Now the sense and the sense objects, they steal this possession of the soul, starting from the free will. Mind steals the free will. That is why the mind gets empowered. Whoever gets the free will, he will be the, suppose you give a power of attorney to somebody, then that person will fully represent you. In the same way, the mind is fully representing us. In other words, all my powers are given to the mind. The mind is the distributor of these powers on my behalf. It is distributing this power into this material world through the Jnanendriya, Karmendriyas, and on my behalf, it is bringing back rasa. This rasa, that rasa. Rasa consists of sensuality and love and being loved. This is the sum and substance of all rasa. Relational rasa and sensual rasa. So the mind, tries to hunt these things outside through his soldiers and then brings back this independent rasa. But the soul has lost its power. Its power, soul's powers are meant to be engaged in Krishna's service. All these senses, everything that we do in the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, what all we can do in the spiritual world. We can have eternal, beautiful relationship between jivas, between Krishna, and everything. Our senses have got wonderful things to see in the spiritual world, the spiritual beauty. Material world, the beauty is temporary, the spiritual world is eternal. Temporary means that temporary, it's only an imitation, it's only an appearance also. Inherently, there is no beauty in anything in this material world. It is only an appearance to imitate the spiritual beauty. So, everything that we see in this material world is also rich with so many different kinds of enjoyment. Is it? So many different kinds of enjoyment. Of course, today, modern world has become so gross that they don't know the fineness of enjoyment. Everything has become very gross. Today, the modern culture has come down to more and more tamasic. Because of that, the perception of enjoyment means sensual enjoyment. Even in a family between husband and wife, there is no finer enjoyment as husband and wife. A family is also now completely, everybody is thinking about gross sense enjoyment. How to acquire more and more things for gross enjoyment. They have no capacity to enjoy fine relational pleasure. Modern life. But our Vedic culture is represent in fullness the perverted reflection of the spiritual world. In fullness. And that is very important. Even though it's a perverted reflection, the existence of Vedic culture with all its enjoyment is very essential in the material world. Why? Because that is how Jiva learns, otherwise Jiva doesn't even know. What rasa I can have with Krishna, you won't even know. because his dictionary is become very abridged. Number of words he knows is very less. Dictionary of enjoyment, very less. He thinks sensuality is only enjoyment. Whereas the enjoyment, interrelationship enjoyment is so fine. So many things are possible, which is now in the modern culture you can't see those things. Because more and more tamoguna and rajoguna means you cannot experience the fine sattvaras. So sense and sense objects centered around the mind, they steal all the possessions of the body, of the mind, of the soul also, they lose the possession. They steal. Even in this conditioned life, body is not Maya, senses are not Maya, sense objects are not Maya, mind is not Maya. Don't hate the mind, don't hate the senses, don't hate the sense objects, don't hate anything in this material world. Hate what? Them. Don't hate the mind, but hate the uncontrolled mind. Uncontrolled mind is a state of the mind. You hate who is the enemy? Enemy is not the mind. Enemy is not the mind. Because the mind can be a friend or enemy. That's the situation of it. How, what? So why should I hate the mind? If I hate the mind, suppose I have a bad mind, I hate it, then you cannot take advantage of the good mind. So why do you hate the mind? Don't hate the mind. See what here Prabhupada says. In this material world, everyone thinks he has conquered his enemies, not understanding his enemies are his uncontrolled mind, uncontrolled senses is the enemy. Senses are not enemy. The senses can be engaged in Krishna's service. So how you use the sense can become your enemy. When you don't use, because everything belongs to Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. Senses belong to Krishna, sense objects belongs to Krishna, mind belongs to Krishna. It is Krishna's creation. Uncontrolled mind is the enemy. Uncontrolled senses are the enemy. So that is why Krishna said, don't hate or love anything in this material world, this duality. Why should we? Prahlad is also talking about duality. Duality is not inherent in the senses. Duality is created by the soul in illusion. So what is Maya? You look at the sense object and say, oh, this is Maya, this is Maya, this is Maya. You look at money and say, this is Maya. You look at women and say, this is Maya. This is not Bhagavata philosophy. This is not Bhagavata philosophy. This is Mayavada philosophy. Women are Maya, men are Maya. This is all Bhagavata philosophy. No, it's not Bhagavata philosophy. Personal philosophy. Because in the spiritual world there is real power to serve Krishna, real female, real male, real rasa, relationship, all these things exist. Because spiritual world, Vaikuntha, is a society. Is an eternal society. We all belong to that family of Krishna. So family of Krishna means everything that is there in this family, in this material world is there also. Mayavadis, they say everything in this material world, every form, name, relationship leads to misery, which is a fact. That part we accept. That it is all misery. Maybe it is misery. There is a purpose for it. From your consciousness, you cannot take out the variegatedness of material existence. Because the variegatedness of material existence, variety is the mother of enjoyment. So many varieties are there. Material world is created out of the symbols of spiritual world. Suppose there is a pen. You make a sketch of pen. A sketch of the pen is different from the original pen. So similarly, in the material world, everything is a sketch. But it is a sketch of the spiritual world. Everything is a sketch. But this is not a two-dimensional pen sketch. This sketch is prepared by three modes of material nature. Suppose you had a pen called writing, it writes three modes. With that pen you can draw everything in this material. You can create everything. That's what Krishna has done. Now for somebody who does not know what is spiritual world, this world is useful or not useful? Or if you nullify that nothing exists, this entire sketch does not exist. There is a sketch of a male, female relationship, father, mother, friends, society, power, all these kinds of things are there. All these things, absolutely, in the absolute sense, it is shunya. It doesn't exist. Jagat mithya, Brahma satya. Finish. It's all mithya. But look at how the Bhagavatam philosophy says, no, these are all very valuable. You are going to learn the vocabulary of how to live in the spiritual world from here. Now don't erase the vocabulary and don't become uneducated. Become educated. Human life is meant for educating yourself. Educating yourself what? About eternal life. There is a life in the spiritual world. And what is the problem in the material world? When you abuse it, because God has created these symbols to serve that purpose of education. You cannot get stuck into the illusion. You have to. The Lord has given a way of utilizing these symbols. For instance, man-human relationship. There is a dharmic way of man and woman to interact. A dharmic way is illusion. If you combine things in this material world in a dharmic way, that is not illusion because it serves a purpose. That's in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am sex life according to regulated principles. Supreme Personality of Godhead is saying. It's not symbolically saying or anything. He has ordained it like that. It is his decision. It is his design. The material world is created like that. So everything, the Maya is not about things and people in this material world. Maya is about the uncontrolled mind and the way the mind, if the mind is uncontrolled, senses also will be uncontrolled. These are the two factors that is the problem. That is a problem for spiritual life. That is a problem for everybody in the material life. That is a problem for entire earth. There are religious codes how to handle lust, kama, desire. There are religious codes. Artha, money, how to handle. There are religious codes. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. There are religious codes are there. So as per these religious codes, when you engage and when you involve in this material world as per religious code, it is designed in such a way that you will get freed from illusory pen and go to real pen. It's designed like that. From all these illusory symbols of this material world, you will go to the eternal. That will it will work. Because, whether something works or not depends on how it has been designed. And that is how the Lord has said, I have designed it like that. Dharma means the principles of design. You live in according to those rules and regulations in a regulated manner, then we become free from this uncontrolled mind and uncontrolled senses. So senses are not the problem, mind is not the problem. Uncontrolled mind and uncontrolled senses are the problem. So the uncontrolled senses, they create, what is the problem they create? They create the 6 enemies, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. Desire, anger, greed, illusion, madness and jealousy. So everybody, this is the fever. There are 6 kinds of fever that the soul has got. 6 kinds of fever the soul has got. Kama, krodha, moha, mada, matsarya. We have to come out of this sickness. These things are not actually, is not natural for the soul. Then one may say that, okay, if I have desires, if just now you mentioned that senses are there, man is there, woman is there, family is there, relationship, all these things are there, senses are there, sensibility is there, and then karma has to be there. In the spiritual world also. If senses are there, then sense enjoyment should be there. How do you say that karma should become? Karma is a symptom of disease. So in spiritual world it must be there. The question is arising. What do I do there with my senses? Senses means to mix with sense object. What do I do? If senses, and if I put a rasgulla on my tongue, whether I want or not, that rasgulla taste will come. So sense is there. So in the spiritual world, if I go, I put a rasgulla, I should be free from sense enjoyment or what? No. Instead of kama, it's called prema. In kama, one is always trying to enjoy, is self-centered. My senses, my happiness, my pleasure, my happiness. In the spiritual world, everybody is thinking of Krishna's happiness, Krishna's servant's happiness, Krishna's servant's pleasure, Krishna's pleasure. Except his pleasure. He thinks he has to serve everything and everybody in Vaikuntha. Not that he only has to serve Narayana. Just like you see in the material world, you don't simply, think of karma of one thing. Wherever you look at karma. How I can enjoy, how I can enjoy, how I can enjoy. In the spiritual world, wherever you look, you will start seeing how I can give pleasure. See, it's another dimension. So, suppose he is another jiva. I am thinking how to give pleasure to him. He is thinking how to give pleasure to me. In pleasure for Govinda, the Lord. He is a centipede for all pleasure. In that case, will be pleasure or not? There will be pleasure or not? So, in the spiritual world, there is pleasure for all our senses also. But that is secondary. The primary pleasure is of giving. The primary pleasure is of giving. One's own sense pleasure, sometimes he curses the sense pleasure also because it will disturb his giving pleasure. When Rukmini was fanning Krishna, suddenly she got so ecstatic. When Krishna said something or something, she got so ecstatic. Her fanning stopped, her senses stopped. The ecstatic pleasure it is. She was cursing because it stopped the Sevarasa. Sevarasa is more in the spiritual world than senses. So in the spiritual world, beautiful things are there, but everything is in relationship with the Lord. The Lord is the most beautiful. Everybody is beautiful in the spiritual world. But your mind is so filled with the pleasure of the Lord. Your mind is so filled. See, in the material world, we are constantly contemplating on my pleasure, and it is vacuum always. It is always vacuum. Shortage. You search for pleasure, shortage, and therefore you are always hungry, you will pounce on something. Desire. In the material world. In the spiritual world, your mind is filled with the thoughts of pleasure of the Lord. That is a constitutional position of our spiritual mind. Spiritual mind enjoys pleasure of the Lord. So it's a complete reversal. And this is a Bhagavata philosophy. This is a personalistic philosophy. Upanishads and all only hint at these things. Upanishads, the message are all meant for taking away from attachment to the illusion. But Bhagavatam says if there is illusion, there must be real. Let us say you see a rope as a snake. Then you get scared. Because you saw the rope as a snake and you got fear. Fear was caused by that perception of snake. If you have to see the rope as a snake, you must be knowing about a snake and the snake is fearful. You must be knowing now. That means if there is an illusion, there must be a yet. If you use the word illusion, this world is illusion, that means immediately there is a real thing. In the material world we look at beautiful women, or women look at beautiful men. Then we say it is illusion. If it is illusion, yeah, correct. Here it is illusion. Here it is illusion because these men and women are made up of Panchabhuta, three gunas. Sketch. It is a sketch. It is not a real pen. in the material world. So that way it is illusion. But there is a real. So Krishna consciousness training means how we learn to see things even when we are in this body. How to see men, women, things, money, everything that the modern society is running after. We also see that. But we see that it is meant, wherever I can engage it in Krishna's service. It can be engaged in Krishna's service, become spiritualized. Spiritualized. Microphone gets spiritualized. Cameras get spiritualized. Concrete gets spiritualized. Come to persons. Body gets spiritualized. This is a Vaishnava culture. Sadhana gets spiritualized. Family gets spiritualized. Male-female relationship in the material world gets spiritualized. When you engage it in Krishna, knowing very well it is temporary, even the symbol gets spiritualized. Even though it is a symbol, everything in the material world you are dealing with sketches only. But still, if the sketches are used properly, it gives pleasure to the Paramatma in the heart. Because you are using the sketch to come out of the sketch. You are using everything in the sketch to come out of the sketch. Because today your only resource is what? Where you are stuck? I am stuck in this. In the sketch world I am stuck. So when you use the sketch to come out, the Lord is very pleased. And that is what the entire mystic is. Rishikena, Rishikesha Sevanam, Bhakti Dikshate. Bhakti means Sarvopali Nirmuktam Tatparatvena Nirmanam. The goal is, by engaging our senses in service of the master of the senses, it has got the power to detach ourselves from illusion. Sarvopali Nirmuktam. All upadhis. That means I, the person, personalizing body, personalizing things, means upadhi. I am that, he is that, all those upadhi. You become material world, you see, free from upadhis. And the soul is actually source of the upadhi. The soul is the identity, real identity, servant of Krishna. Then we can become free. The entire message of Bhagavad Gita, everything is directed towards that. Why you should become free from sense gratification, why you should become free from fruitive activities. This is again connected to sense enjoyment and power. Why we should become free from fruitive activities? Because that's about material power. Fruitive activity means material power. I earn and I enjoy. That is fruitive activity. These are the fundamental principles Krishna teaches in the Gita. And he says you are a miser. If you are after fruitive activities, you are a miser. What is the meaning of that? That means if somebody is running after, I want to build a multi-billion industry, he is running. According to Krishna, he is a miser. Oh, he is a miser. When you say miser, that means you have got something very expensive with you and you are not using it, then you are called a miser. So if you have got a human life, you should think of building a multi-billion temple. You are a miser. You are investing your all the things on stupid things, which you will have to live and go. But if you use your soul's energies to build a multi-billion temple, you are not a miser. Because Krishna will note every seva that you are given. It is eternal. So you are building your eternal relationship with Krishna. So therefore, any fruitive activity is miserly in this material world. Because soul's capacity, soul is so great, so divine. Its ability to think, its ability to desire, its ability to enjoy, giving enjoyment to Krishna, these are all very divine elements of the soul. What is the value of that? And you are a miser, you are running after all these things. So he says it's a miser. So Bhagavad Gita message is meant. So people think, what is this? Something I don't know. See, every life, somewhere in Bhagavad Gita, if it says how to become big, then that is a kind of book that we need today. Kind of book we need today. How to be successful in material life. How to become big. He thinks the Bhagavad Gita contains everything. He'll open and then he'll say, oh, you're a miser if you're out of fruitive activities. That means if you gun for a fruit and you chase that fruit for yourself, then you are a miser. That's what Bhagavad Gita is saying. Who gives this message? Nobody gives this message. Everybody will take something from Bhagavad Gita, a small portion, and then they'll say, okay, now you run like this. You run after your multi-billion industry. Bhagavad Gita says how to run, come and run. But Bhagavad Gita says don't run. In the human form of life, it's a destiny for you. Do your duty, that multi-billion night, anything that if it is destined in your life, this life, it will come to you in the course of your normal duty. And if you don't do your normal duty, even if you do overdo your duty, that will not change. 1 billion will not become 1 billion 1 rupee. That is the principle of, that's how it is designed. In this life, destiny is fixed of material sukha and dukkha. So why should I work hard? Actually, this was one of the important lines of Prabhupada in Science of Self-Realization that changed my decision to not to pursue big things in the material world when I was studying in IIT. One simple line. I couldn't swallow it. I couldn't believe it. It simply said, the happiness and distress in material life is destined. I said, this contradicts everything. I can't believe it. Then I was thinking that almost the whole world is thinking that I can create destiny and runs after run after it doesn't exist. If I wish I did, I should get it. And you won't get it. Only psychiatrists get job. The number of depressions have increased in this world now because more and more books are being written about thinking big, making big, getting big. You dream big, you get big. Everybody is into this madness. This is something come from the Western culture. This is never our culture. Our culture, man was content by doing his duty. The duty you have to do to get what you want to do, what is due to you. Just like money is in your bank account, your money. Even to get that, you have to write a check, go to the bank and take it. You can say, I have money in my bank. Give me money. They say, no, your procedure is there. So in the same way, duty is there. Law of nature, when you are taken birth, your destiny is there. But destiny is waiting. Do your duty, I will deliver your destiny. The fellow will say, I will not do my duty also. So destiny will say, don't worry, I will not erase your destiny. Carry over for next life. You will not get now unless you write your check. These are the secrets in the Bhagavad Gita. One has to do duty, but destiny is destined. Now see the great advantage of this. It does not make you over-endeavor. Why this is designed like that? Why Krishna has designed life, human life in such a way it's destined? There's a purpose. What is that? So you don't spend your prana for that. Spend your prana for building, just like you are saying, building, I want to get big. So it's the same thing, you now start thinking, big devotion. Think of detachment. Think of making a big building inside your heart. Big detachment. Big transcendental knowledge. All these things, this is human life is meant for them. So clear, there is a particular reason. There is a particular reason why everything is created by God, and that's revealed in the book. You have to accept that, then only this secret will be revealed. By the mercy of Guru, it will be revealed. Otherwise, even many spiritualists don't understand this. Many spiritual gurus don't understand. Now spiritual gurus have turned into mind gurus. How to, run your mind in such a way that you can make it big. Indian spiritual gurus also have become like that. Any questions?
You said in the two things are like a sketch of a pen. A real pen exists. So we said three-dimensional pen can be used, sketch cannot be used. So what is the difference in the world of the name in this picture and the thing in this picture? What is the extra that it has in this picture?
What extra that has got is or put the question this way. Because illusion is supposed to duplicate real in terms of experience. Now your question is, okay, experience is there, but what is the difference in stuff?
The substance.
Now in the substance, what is the difference? The difference is, for instance, in this material world, take this body. Let's take body. This body, when I look at him, I only see his form. I don't see a mechanism inside his body which is sustaining this form. So in the spiritual world, the same experience is there without the mechanism itself. And that experiential body is made up of Sat, Chit and Ananda. Chinmaya Sharira. Everybody has a Chinmaya Sharira. So that is the reason, in order to the imitation of this material, imitation of the spiritual world becomes disturbed. Let's say I shake hand with you. As long as I shake hand, as long as I don't think I am just joining bones together, then rasa is gone. No, the moment you think, as long as you think I am shaking hands, rasa continues. Because in spiritual world, that much is there. You go to the bone level, everything, it is not there. This is fabrication. So your rasa is gone. So to create this imitation rasa, to that degree, whatever is required, that is experientially created here through a mechanism of matter. So in the spiritual world, there is no matter. In the spiritual world, everything is Satchidananda. Now you may say, is there Satchidananda, earth, water, fire, air, ether? Yeah. But there is no mechanism required. Because spiritual world is also created by three potencies. Chaitanya Charitamrita says. Sandhini, Samviks and Hladini potency. Three potencies. Prabhupada explains that just like three modes of material nature mix together and manifest this world for our experience. In the spiritual world, for our spiritual senses, these three potencies create a world, a floor, Chintamani, a floor of trees, Kalpavriksha. They create. So it's another world. But it is also made up of Chit substance, Chinmaya substance. But it's wrong to say earth, water, fire, air, ether, because here those are elements that is mixing together. Yeah, in the spirit, because there is no element like that. It is Chinmaya, but it has got all the properties. There is water there in the spiritual world. So that is so stuff in terms of substance. Then you may say, what is the Satchidananda substance? The Satchidananda substance, to give a clue of that, idea of that it is identity substance. That is why everything is unique. A mic is a personality. What is the substance of that mic? Is his personality itself, his identity itself. I am mic. I am mic is the substance of mic. And his characteristic is form, this particular form. And his function is to take the sound, like that. So identity is a substance, because identity is not a material quality. So here we have got indications of spirit. What is that? individuality, not the identity. The identity is an illusion. I am a man is an illusion. When the spiritual world, if the mic says I am a mic, it is not illusion, it is eternally a mic. But it creates, identifies with something and creates false identities. So in the material world, there is a difference between soul's individuality and identity. In the spiritual world, that identity and individuality is one. So in the spiritual world, we have forgotten our identity, but individuality cannot kill, it remains. Your substance is your individuality. That individuality is consciousness. Your unique center, you are a unique center of consciousness, you are a unique center, you are a unique center. Your history is your history of action, reaction from anadi time is different from this atma, that atma, that atma. Each one of us are Amsha of Krishna. So in this body, even now, something of spirit is we can grasp. What is that? My individuality manifests in the form of free will. That is why the entire Shastra, Bhagavatam, and all is trying to change, to bring about change in the use of our free will. Only we change the use of our free will, then only we can wake up. Because our individuality is still there in the material world, each one of them. Otherwise, there is no use Krishna talking to Arjuna to preach now. There is no, let's say you're completely a sense gratified. I am a Krishna conscious devotee. I come to preach to you. You know, if nothing of your soul is manifest, what is the use of me talking to you? Who is hearing? Somebody else is hearing. No doubt. Your ahankara, so many, somebody else is hearing. But behind it, right behind it, the individuality is yours. Therefore, it is worthy of speech. So everything is Chinmaya Vastu, and Chinmaya Vastu, to get an idea, is full of identity. Anything is there, it is own identity. It is a personality. Every particle in Brahma Jyoti is a personality. Everything in the spiritual world is a personality. Every dust is a personality. Every tree is a personality. Every fruit that comes in the tree is another individual personality within that tree. Like that. Don't ask too many questions. What happens to the fruit when you eat it?
Good experience.
I am yet to find answer for that.
So this is identity substance, that is individual substance. What we experience here is identity substance, and that is individual substance.
No. Here, individuality is that of the soul. Identity is given to you by Maya. There, your individuality and identity is same. Is same. There also you got the facility to change identity also. In material world, if you can change. Why the soul does not have that facility in the spiritual world? The spirit is to serve the Lord. Just like Prabhupada has taken this form. Why are we worshipping this form? Tell me, why are we worshipping this form? He's already gone now.
His identity and individuality is not different.
Because, even though, let's say Prabhupada's individuality is still here, and because he has got the facility, even a Jiva has got the facility. Let's say he is a spiritual master somewhere else, in some other planets, he is preaching. He will have another form, right? So, Prabhupada's individuality will have that form and this form. Now he has got DT form now. It's not that he is not identifying. Prabhupada is identifying with this body. Otherwise, how he is receiving puja? How is he receiving puja? So, multiple identities you can take. That means his self can feel I am this. His self can feel some other form also. He can feel. This is in spirit. All these things are possible in service of the Lord. In service of the Lord. A small atta you take, one ball of atta, you can make chapati, you can make puri, you can make something else, unlimited things you can make out of it. Small atta has that property. Soul doesn't have that property. Huh? Soul has that property. Why? Because it's coming from Krishna. Krishna can become this Krishna Balaram, Krishna can become Hare Krishna and Krishna Balaram, Krishna can become Vrindavan Krishna Balaram, Krishna can become Radha Madhu, they actually become, they are not simples. They become an enter because bhakti is there, love is there, to receive service, they come anywhere, they don't come. Does not matter how many people are coming, how big the temple is, how small temple is. In your house, if you are worshipping Radha and Krishna, then Lord is coming there for the bhakti. He doesn't go by numbers. With love you are offering something to Krishna, he will come there and he will receive it. He will become that. That deity is also non-different from Krishna himself. Krishna Nama, non-different from Krishna. Whoever chants.
Small question. So Bhagavatam says, if a devotee always thinks, I'm an eternal servant of Krishna, he performs, he gets the benefit of performing all the 9 processes of devotional service. Pranam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Sudhanam, Bhagavatam, Vachanam, Dasa, such a mark. Like okay, now I'm having this concept for 15 years. Of course, I have some real problems and everything. Now I'm thinking, Krishna, I'm an eternal servant. I want to play with you, eat with you, dance with you, play with you. I want to be always with you. Only that I want to leave this with you. Will I be able to go back to water very soon? What is your
No, you have to meticulously follow what the Guru said. And then Guru has told you, I will take you back to water. Prabhupada, the spiritual master, whatever he said, you have to get linked up as a disciple, follow everything that he says without any exemption, or try to follow as much as possible. He is very merciful, he will take you back to water. Out of that, most important is 4 regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds nicely. If you follow those things and take association of Vaishnavas, don't make offenses to Vaishnavas, never criticize Vaishnavas. Just simply think of your life and then you will 100% go to it. If you chant 16 rounds and follow 4 regulative principles and do Vaishnava offenses, you will have to wait. You will have to wait. Because you cannot enter that world unless you are humble. Why does somebody criticize? No, because he thinks he knows more than somebody else. He thinks he is better than somebody else. Only those who have got service of criticizing in this material world, as a matter of duty, they can criticize. Otherwise, criticizing is a condition living entity's rasa. Finding fault is a condition living entity's rasa. If it is not your duty, if it is your duty also, if you are taking pleasure in criticizing, you have to think twice before doing it. If you are criticizing somebody and if you greatly pains you and you are very hesitant to criticize and correct that person, then you go ahead and do it. It will have potential. Because you are not taking rasa from it. You are doing it really as a service to rectify this devotee. But if you are enjoying talking, you are enjoying. And not even your duty. Nobody has told you that you should do this. Then you take up that duty. It's a disease. Nobody, Vaishnava does not want to criticize anybody. Does not want to find fault with anybody. But that's a duty he has to do. Guru has to do. Authorities have to do. They will do. It is their duty. And they have to do without getting wet. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagad Guru Srila Prabhupada.